Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. Okay, we are going to look at HPC space and depth cards. Now you can purchase them online, you can go to eBay or you can buy a whole set of them, but sometimes you've got to print them up because they're all American and sometimes you just don't get what you need. Now if you use Instacode, you can actually print up the cards that you wish, and on the full version of Instacode you can actually, there is a plug-in there where you can create your own cards. So that's really cool, because if you wanted to create your own cards and you've got the full version of Instacode, it's as simple as pretty much just going through with your vernier calipers like so, 671, and writing down all the space and depths that you have. 671, for example, we'll just do the first three cuts. 583, so that would be our depths. 551, and then you would go through and you would create your spacing. 607, 1053, and so on. So basically what this will do then is give you the measurements so that you could recreate your own card. That's a 3. You could then put in that data into Instacode, and you could actually print out a card for that. So that would be creating your own card. You would then get a printout like this, where you could then cut it, and you could use it in your machine by sliding it in, and then you'd be ready to go. What I'm going to show you today is we're going to print these out and we're going to make them laminated so that they're reasonable. When you get the cards from HPC, they're quite good. They're cardboard, they're strong, they don't bend the needles when they go in, and they're perfectly cut already. Unfortunately there's no die we have to just put it in and to do that, so it's all done actually with scissors. So I'm going to do that with you. I'm going to make up a card with you, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And of course, if it frustrates you on how I do it and you've got a better method, tell me. I'd love to know too. But for other people who have no method, this might be the method that actually works for you as well. So we're not going to be creating a card. That was just a quick example of how you could create your own card. That would give you your own depths, and it will give you your own spacing. When you look at these, that's your depths and that's your spacing. So if I was to plot those numbers in to Instacode, I could print out my own card. But I just looked at my thing there and I'm not sure if I've got that plug in. The next option is there is a program out there that's very cheap from the US called Create a Card. I've purchased that along the way and I've used that many times, and I've written up my own cards many times. So if you're looking for something without needing to go by Instacode, look at Create a Card. I'll try and leave the link down in the description. Alright, so let's get to this. Alright, so I want to print out this card here. Now this is a Yale key blank. What I like to do sometimes is just impose a picture of the key blank on here as well. If not, you can just trace around it, so that way when you look at the card you can see exactly what it is. You can also use a highlighter here to highlight the card number or any points that you wish. You can also get a red marker here and you can go over your points too to make them stand out, but they stand out fairly well as it is. So let's go through. Now I've printed this out twice, so what I like to do is like to put them together like this. Let's get rid of this purple, it's not necessary, and I'm going to get my slicer here. So I've got my two pieces of paper which were printed on the same machine at the exact same time, and they are identical. Now I don't like this slicer here because it's a little bit hard to gauge, but you got to slice along the line. So for this one here, I'm going to bring it up to there and slice along that line. And I'm off that line at the moment, so I'm going to line them up again, push it in, just a bee's dick, and slice again. And there we go, I've taken the line off, so I'm happy with that. Come around and do it again, and I'm off it again by only one bee's dick, and then we're back, we're good. Then you get this paper, you throw it straight in the bin because it's annoying. And then you come along holding the piece of paper together, making sure it's all lined up as best you can, and you slice, bang, straight over that line. Okay, now here's the bit that I like to use because it's the only way I could find to kind of line them up and do it, find out what's going on. I put it in a hole punch, I push the hole punch. This gives me two circles now. These two circles will allow me to realign it later on. Okay, so now I've got my perfect template, and I've also got the one I'm going to be cutting down. So what I'm going to do now is going to put it back in the slicer, and I'm going to take off probably about 3 to 4 mil on each side, And the reason we're doing that is because when you laminate it, the laminate won't stick unless, or won't hold together good, unless it has 3 to 4 mil around the sides. Now the way these cards work is they need to be the exact size, and if they're not the exact size, your space and depth is going to be out. So we actually have to cut this down around the perimeter to reduce it so that the laminate will hold it together with a nice stick around the edge, and that be the correct size. So now I'm coming up to the center section. I'm going to cut it 3 to 4 mil bigger. And just give it a nice little roundness there. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll fix that up later. Alright, now we move on to phase 2. Okay, so I got these from Officeworks. These are just laminates, A6, 80 microns, whatever a micron is. And they're the exact size. And I think they cost me like $10. You get a pack of 50. They cost nothing. Putting that over the top of that, perfect. Right, so this is our one that is actually cut down. So I'm going to line that up and I'm going to center it the best I can. I'm going to put the top already sealed laminate bit in the middle, lining it up nice and square. Remember, I've got to give back what I took off the edges, and there it is there. Alright, now here comes the satisfying part. Let's put that in there, and we wait, and wait, and wait. But it's coming, it's moving. This is a laminating machine, probably about $30 worth. The actual laminating sleeves were about $10 worth, but considering they give the cards a nice feel where you could even mark them with a whiteboard marker and just rub it off. They give them a nice rigidness so that you're not bending the needles when you're getting your cards in and out of the machine, and they make the cards a lot more durable, wearable, reliable. Also, I use a laser printer, which is not a good thing, because what happens is that the print actually rubs off. So if you don't do this, the print after a few weeks just rubs off and turns into nothing. Alright, so here's the tricky part. Now I'm using a Sharpie, real fine point for this, and what you have to do is you have to put the original one underneath, and you have to line them up exactly with the 2 holes. And what that does is that tells you where you need to be. Now I go through and I just mark with my Sharpie, which is a permanent marker, a few little dots just around on the original line. And you can use your guillotine or swiper cutter after this as well to speed stuff up. So I'm just marking it. Hang on, I've got to realign it now. Just about to say I'm right-handed. I can't do left-handed. I'm going to get all off the chart. So just go through, mark that line. Mark that line. I mean, you only need a few dots, but once you've got that line, you're good. Okay, so there we have it. I've got my lines now around it, and this becomes redundant. Alright, back to phase 2. Now you put it in here, and you have to be really, really good with this of knowing where your slicer cutter's actually cutting. My piece of plastic is about 2-3 mils inside, so I've got to overlap it and look for the absolute edge, because I want this to be precise. There's one done. 2 done. And by using those little dots, it just gives me a little guide. I mean, I know somebody out there's probably got a better way of doing it, but over all the years and all the bad cards that I've made, I found this to be the best. Okay, so I've got one little dot there, not so bad. And then we come through here with a pair of scissors. This part doesn't matter as much because the cards work on the base here and the sides here, but I do not want the needles on my expensive HPC machines to be messed up. And a HPC machine, just for your reference, in Australia is about $6,000 to buy, plus cards, plus this. Okay, so there's a card. So now this should be ready to use, and I can check it against another card to check, because I'm not looking for the paper to be touching edges, I'm looking for the laminate to be touching the edges and for it to be lining up, and that looks like it's lining up perfectly. Just to be a little bit finicky, let's just touch those edges up just to make it ramping. And if we want to double check, we can put one over the other and we can check that everything is in spec, and I'm happy with that. When I line up the sides and all the rest, I'm happy with that. So there you go, from plastic into now laminated. Now that's going to last a lot more years. It's not going to break the needles when it goes in. It's already on a bit of a curve, which is perfect for when you're putting it down and the needles are in there. You're not going to get those needles caught on it, and that will last a long time. I personally now would put the keyblade over the top and trace around it and give you a little bit of a figure of a key here. I think that really speeds up the process. When you're looking through your cards and you've got 50 of them, they all look like this, it's not so good. But if you draw little pictures of the key that it is on the paper, and then you can quickly identify it. If you want to get really creative, you can actually take the silhouette of the key and actually print it on the paper and then print the card afterwards, which I did on a lot of my other ones, but it takes a bit of time. So there we are, making HPC cards. Create a key card is the other one. If you don't have Instacode, and if you don't have the actual